Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is TC coming to record this pod with the intention to flesh out some understanding of youth ministry integrations, and want to walk through, man, some of the research and some of the reading that was found in Chap Clark's writings and folk like Tanita Maddox. And just some really, man, some important information that is really good in formulating youth involvement and youth engagement, specifically, man, through this vehicle and this tool of Young Life. And so introduction, man. My name is Theron Cunningham. I am the acting area director of Young Life West Louisville. That is in Louisville, Kentucky, to say it correctly, Louisville, Kentucky. I'm right there, man, in the heart of the city. Um, West Louisville is the most urban core of Louisville. It is a residence that is, for me, as I describe it to a lot of people, one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful section of the city. I love West Louisville. West Louisville is a heartbeat of mine. I stepped into this position to work through this position because I want to be a part of the healing and the growth and the maturity and the spiritual development of West Louisville. What God is already doing, I believe that what God is already doing, Young Life West Louisville as an area can step in and join in with God and be used as a tool and a weapon to do great work for the kingdom. West Louisville is a defining part of the city of Louisville. Historically, it is a part of the origin communities of Louisville. And you will see that the racial dynamic and the cultural dynamic of West Louisville drastically shifted at the end of the 1960s. And so you had the vast majority of white population or white residents or white citizens of the city of Louisville shift to the eastern part of the city and begin to develop communities outside of West Louisville. And it happened so fast. It happened with not only residents leaving, but with businesses vacating the area, that it was not only a residential shift, but it was an economic shift. It was a social economic shift, but then you also saw a spiritual shift because the city in and of itself turned its back on the area because it was off to new and emerging things. But then also there was a racial component, that the white residents, as they left West Louisville, they took all resources with them, but most did not see a significant reason to try to bring about equality and equity to the residents that were left in West Louisville. All of them, and many of them were white, who were in this now low social economic state. And so they existed there. But then you also see, so when the houses of those residents were now empty, and because the area of town was now deemed to be lower, and not bad, but in the late 60s and 70s, it was deemed to be lower because of the new residence that was taking place in the eastern side of the city. Then you had what was the allowance, and we talk about redlining and all of that, that created this dense population of African Americans who now were able to move into housing that at one time they were not able to move into, but they're now moved into area of housing in West Louisville. And since the late 60s and early 70s, West Louisville has become the most dense area in the city to house African Americans. Almost 75% of the African American population of Louisville is in the West End of Louisville. And so that is where Young Life West Louisville aims to do its work. Though West Louisville is dense again with the lowest economic status of its residents, poverty is not prevailing. Poverty is not prevailing. It is their low income. Many people are the working poor, so they are under middle class, but they are above the poverty line. Though you do have many, not majority, but many who do get government assistance. But many of them, again, as Adam Shipler would label them in his writing, they are working poor. So many people work, but they need the addendum or the supplement of funding to help them not fall below the poverty line. I would say about with West Louisville that you have crime, you have violence, you do have drugs, but those are not the worst of the issues that residents of and especially our students face being in that context. It would be more of the mental and the spiritual and the emotional oppression that one finds themselves existing in when living in this area of town because of the historical isolation and otherness that the residents generationally have felt. And so there is a lack of belief that when we talk about spiritual things, that even God's plan for human life is at a high status when it comes to residents of West Louisville. What West Louisville residents wonder at many times, does God have a plan for me? And so if I have adults and parents who are existing in that mindset, then I have that in the mindset of adolescents and the students that we are sent to engage. And so there is a message of hope that we must now have at the front of our engagement to our students, reminding them that they are as much as a part of God's plan as anyone else in God's creation. No matter what the hue of your skin is, no matter what your zip code is, no matter what your address is, no matter what your historical or cultural background, as it goes with living in our beautiful city, you are part of the plan that God has for those he is seeking in Louisville, Kentucky. And the West End, many times as I talk to my students, I tell them, man, let us project, let us pronounce that the West End is the best end, and that God has grand plans for those who exist in that section of our city. And so it is with great honor, with great work that I love. I love working in this area of town because I do believe that God is going to allow me to witness, along with my leaders and others, that we're going to witness great movements of God, and He's going to allow us to see His hand at work. So when we look at much of the work that we were asked to look at in walking through this the youth ministry integrations, you talk about adolescence today. How do we describe adolescence today? For me, I would describe it, and I do see where in the writings that the chap Clark was talking about, and how that it always seems that the present generation of adults want to point the finger down to the current generation of adolescents. That we believe that for whatever reason, that they either have it better or that there is something about them that they're not taking advantage of, right? That they have what previous generations did not have, and yet they do not have the sense or the awareness to take advantage of it, which is, as spelled out in the reading, that is a terrible stance to put to place on young people. As I say to them all the time, immaturity is not a bad word. It is just an existence that you can now grow out of. But I do believe that there is a truth in saying that adolescents seem to know more than previous generations as you talk about the access of information, the access of knowledge as it goes with technology. They seem to have a more quicker access to information. And we'll talk about education later, but they have an access to information more steadily than previous generation. But it seems that they produce less. Seem like if they have the ability to look up how to put an engine in a car through technology by YouTube, that someone can systematically walk through it in a YouTube video, seem like they would be able to produce more. But that seemingly does not seem to be the case. When we talk about adolescents today, they do seem to live in silos, not in major or big friend groups. In times that I go to schools, it seems like friend groups are shrinking, and that more and more students are okay with existing in silos. That they may they may sit at the same table as other students, but they don't necessarily engage at a pace that we may have seen in the past. They have the social appetite is filled through the false reality of social media, and so this generation leans heavily on the influence and the impact of social media. They establish and exist in non-in-person relationships and friendships through texting and FaceTiming and streaming. This generation really, they are not absent from that divine deal of community that God has wired us with, but they seemingly fall short of aspiring to maximize this thing called community. And so that's where I really pick up on what Chap Clark talks about when he talks about the world beneath, where this world now that teenagers or adolescents exist in, these mid adolescents exist in this world beneath, because of many of the things that I spoke of before. And one thing that I did not express, that I think that Chap is certainly right on, is that the pressure of the home environment, the oppression, or the um oh man the reality that parents are pushing students, where they believe that they are pushing students to mature more quickly, where they believe that they are pushing them towards growth, and pushing them towards adulthood. In reality, they are skipping over or not nurturing teenagers and adolescents in a way that would help them grow and help them mature. They're just lording on them pressure to be something that they are not emotionally, they are not psychologically, nor spiritually, and mentally ready to adapt to. And so what adolescents do is that they shrink into these world beneath, where they create these social constructs for their own mental, emotional, psychological, and even spiritual, what they believe well-being. The problem is that when they are in these world beneaths, it's kind of reminds me of Bill Cosby's his old bit, where he would talk about Bill Cosby would talk about uh, feeding his children cake for breakfast, and he would uh, he would justify it by saying, in a cake, you have milk, In a cake, you have eggs, and milk and eggs are very nutritional. Thus, cooking them a cake with the eggs and the milk and feeding them the eggs and the cake inside, eggs and the milk inside the cake, now somehow balances out the nutrition. The problem is that the things, the chocolate and the sugar and all the other non-nutritional things override the eggs and the milk, and they no longer provide the nutritional value. The things that students believe they're getting from these world beneaths. They think they're getting community. They believe they're getting fellowship. They believe they're getting nurturing. They believe they're getting support. They believe that they are aided in personal aspirations. The problem is that all of these things that could be very good are overwhelmed by all the negative things that students, man, are hearing, the inept advice and wisdom. What they believe is community is actually not community. They're not true friends. They don't have in-depth connection. It's all shallow. And so when we talk about Mr. Clark's writing, students in these world beneath, they believe that they are being that they're chasing after what they need, this sense of having a foundational understanding of what their identity is, autonomy, having their voice in the world, and then a sense of belonging. They believe in these little social constructs that they create in these silos of what they believe community is. They believe that they're getting it, but in reality, they are hearing such negative things that speak about identity, and so now they are existing in identities that are contrary to what God wants them to have. They believe that they are being affirmed in their identity when they're able to question their identity, or when they're able to create their own identity. They believe that they are being affirmed when in reality, what God has for them has been snatched away. In my city, not long ago, students saw the power of having their own voice. Louisville was really overtaken by the Breonna Taylor protest, and where many people gave voice to what they believed was the murder, unjust murder of Breonna Taylor, and people gave their voice, and students understand the power of voice. But many of them don't know how God intends for them to use that power. And many of them are not founded in a proper understanding of voice. And so what they hear from the world, many of them hear a perverted way for them to now give their voice. And I think the chap is dead on that we as believers and leaders need to identify and help them understand how to use their voice. And then when we talk about belonging, when we talk about this, we talk about it now. Maddox talked about millennials and Gen Z and Gen X's and even the next generation, the Gen Alpha, have a insecurity about the Christian community because they believe that many things that we stand for is vastly against what they now go against or go for, or believe they're being given in these world beneaths, and they don't trust us. And so the problem is that they will continue to exist in these world beneaths because they don't trust the church, and they don't trust Christian circles and communities. And so it's hard for us to get in there. And as we talked about, we sit on the steps. We have to sit outside. We have to wait for them to allow us to come in. When we talk about being intentional, how do we get inside of these worlds? Well, we got to be intentional about showing students the Jesus of the scriptures, to allow students to understand that we did not make up Jesus. We did not create Jesus. The Jesus of the scriptures is the one who's pursuing them, not the Jesus of the sermon from the preacher, or not Jesus from our gospel proclamation doing club, but we show them the Jesus of the scripture, one that is chasing after them. But we do that. I think Matthew 9 talks about that Matthew 9 shows that Jesus in his compassion is now preaching and teaching, telling, healing the sick, every form of disease. And then he's talking about the kingdom that is to come, but he's doing it while he is among the people. And then he turns on his heels and says to his disciples, listen, pray to the Lord of the harvest, that he ekbalos, that he forces out those who have become comfortable to now go do what I'm doing, to now have compassion, let their hearts be broken, let their stomachs be overturned by the condition in which they see in our communities. And that's my heartbeat for West Louisville, that I pray that Matthew 9 just resonates all through our area and his leadership, that we want to be those that show the love of Christ. And I think that's what Ms. Maddox was speaking about when she was saying that, listen, in order to grow a trust for the Christian community, that we must allow students to know that they are safe when they come around Christians. And so leaders and me, their director, and people that I bring them around, must now show a compassion and a love for students so that they would just feel safe being around us. I do believe that when Jesus did his preaching and teaching in Matthew 9, that he did it in a way that was not, like from a microphone or from a pulpit, but Jesus, man, he did it in a way that was very incarnational. I believe Jesus' witness is incarnational to the core. And when we see in John 1 and 12, what it talks about that he came, he put on flesh, and he came and he dwelt among us. That Jesus saw it important that he come and he be a part of creation, and that he brought himself to us, and that is what we ought to do. We ought to be incarnational with our witness, that we go and we do what my sister Crystal talked about in the presentation, where she says that we need to be the head, the heart, and the hands, right? That we as believers, we push to now lead in a way that we are impacting the head and the heart of our leaders, but also the head and the heart of our students, that we must push them in a way that they abide and conform to Jesus, not to us, but they conform to Jesus. And then as they conform to Jesus, their habits and their practices are challenged, right? That we lovingly spend time with them and share life with them, that they understand that we're pushing them to understanding how their life must transform as they come in contact with Jesus. But then we look for that fruit where we now become those who have been sent, and we now develop them into a way that they are now the ones who are we are doing the sending, and we're sending adolescents into the world of the worlds of beneath, and they are now those who are doing the work of discipleship. They're now the ones who are doing the work of dealing with the issues of our community, dealing with the issues of our city, but they're doing it in a way that is now Christ-like and Jesus affirming, and we're going in. I love what we're talking about contextualizing the gospel, which is vastly important for me. I love how Jesus would contextualize the gospel. He would use sheep to help a shepherd see the kingdom. Jesus would use bread to help a cook see the danger of yeast and see it as sin. Right. In the same way, we need to walk with students, and I love how I walk students down neighborhoods in our community, and they see the dilapidated houses, and they see all the rundown houses, but then they see somebody come in, purchase and renovate. And then they see the newness of the house and how the house now becomes an illustration for the hope of the neighborhood. And that is now how we talk about contextualizing the gospel, that we allow our students to see that your soul in sin is the dilapidated house, but now it becomes brand new when renovated, purchased by Jesus, and then now made new, and you now become valuable for the community. I love this deal, and listen, y'all. My heartbeat is that Young Life West Louisville become something that God can use, a weapon and a tool in the Master's hand to engage and to transform the lives of students that God Himself places in front of me, and my team and others in our area, and that we use the opportunity that He gives us to do great work in the ministry, and that we become uh, what many talked about, that we become that work that changes the lives in our city. Amen. God bless. Thank y'all for this.